Welcome to Unbiased and On the Fence. I'm Shane, and that's it. It's Paranormal Frequencies night, and tonight's guest is Aaron Abke. We want to say hello to Aaron and Sherry. How are you guys doing?
Hey guys, doing well. How are you?
Doing wonderful. So I really, man, I love your channel. You cover so much cool stuff that we talk about on here too, and you offer some unique perspectives on stuff. And I just generally love watching your channel. So Sherry wanted to get you on here, and I thought, man, yeah, it's a great idea, and because I'm sure that our viewers will definitely want to know about you. So, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I have a little bio on him here.
Okay.
Okay. Aaron was born and raised as a pastor's son in the Silicon Valley. At 23 years old, he was serving as a full-time pastor when he had a dramatic spiritual awakening. From that point, he left everything behind to pursue deeper spiritual truth and self-realization. Today, he teaches self-empowerment, law of attraction, and self-realization on YouTube, as well as leading workshops, meditation classes in San Jose. Aaron's passion is to point others to their true inner freedom and authentic self. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, guys.
So yeah, a lot of our group here has sort of taken the stepping stone of religion and moved beyond that. So a lot of people feel comfortable with those who at least have that history, you know. So that's cool that you're a pastor's son, and you even did some pastoring yourself for a while.
I sure did, man.
That's awesome, man. What kind of church was it?
So it was a much more fundamentalist denomination than I had grown up in. I grew up in an evangelical, very like spirit-filled denomination, and so I actually
like
saw
speaking in tongues and all that good stuff.
Or... yeah, all the good.
Oh, okay. That's same here. Yeah, we were Pentecostal or charismatic. There was a few different labels.
Yeah, pretty similar to Pentecostal.
Yeah,
we did all kinds of like healings and miracles and delivering demons out of people and all the fun stuff.
Okay, yeah, that's the same thing. So, what do you think about like in the, I guess, more of the New Age communities, more spiritual communities? You hear about light language. How do you think that relates with speaking in tongues? Do you think it's different, or you think there's a relationship between what's happening during that?
That's a good question. It took me a while to figure out what tongues was, because there was a lot of stuff I grew up seeing in church that when I left my religious framework behind, I had a really difficult time explaining stuff away. Like, I never stopped believing in physical healing or anything like that, but especially speaking in tongues. Like, there was a time where my dad had spoken in tongues in church, and there's a guy who spoke Spanish at our church. His name is Rudy, and he told my dad and a bunch of other people who spoke Spanish in the congregation were like, "Scott, where did you learn such exquisite Spanish? That was amazing." And he was like, "Oh, I don't speak Spanish. Like, I was just speaking in tongues." And they're like, "You spoke like perfect classic Spanish for the last 5 minutes," and we were all like amazed. So, you know, like,
Wow.
I can't just explain that away. Like, all those people weren't just lying, you know?
Right.
So I think
that's
it is
amazing.
very similar.
And I thought of that too back in the days of Pentecost, where they where it was, you know, were they babbling? Were they speaking a heavenly language, or were they speaking another human tongue? I mean, that was always sort of the question about what was happening back then.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the same thing that we put different verbiage to, you know, like light language, speaking in tongues. You know, there's only one truth in the universe, and so you can call it whatever you want, but it's the same thing.
Right.
One thing from the way that I had interpreted one thing that I used to always say was I was never raised in a church that spoke in tongues, but I always felt like if there was like just like in that instance, say there was like people that spoke Spanish there,
Mm-hmm.
and then someone all of a sudden started speaking in Spanish to like give them a message or whatever, that would be like more legit than just like, babble or something that's not
Uh-huh.
understood or whatever. That was my opinion on it, just from what I formed by myself back in my more religious days or whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of
But
interesting if you think about it from like a perspective of a mantra in a meditation. Um,
right,
what speaking in tongues can do is that, like, language, or I guess you could say communication, like higher density beings speak in nonverbal communication. Like they don't use words, they just telepathy and things like that. So they can download like packages of data directly to one another's consciousness. And so it's really just a vibration, it's a frequency, right? And when you speak in tongues, I think what's happening is that you're actually, because you're babbling, it confuses your analytical mind, which is trying to process language, and it can't compute anything sensical. And so it actually allows this nonverbal telepathy to come through in such a way that the person listening might
Mm.
start getting the basic vibe of the package of data you're trying to send, which might be a prophecy or whatever the case is. That's kind of how I see it working, like from a mechanical perspective.
Oh, I totally see that because it always comes back to this whole left right brain sort
Yep,
of thing and getting your left brain out of the way to get your heart more into it and
exactly.
the feeling. So that kind of leads me a nice segue back into one of your latest videos, or it was your latest video, where you were talking about emotions and how they're an indicator of where we are
Mhm.
physically, I guess, in our life. And can you get a little bit into that? Because I think that was a powerful message that a lot of people that struggle with depression and just feeling down a lot, I think it would be helpful for them to look at their emotions from a different perspective, if you
Yeah.
will.
Yeah, I think this might be the most helpful catalyst to anyone's spiritual growth, in my opinion. I'm so passionate actually about this topic of the emotional guidance system, because I've seen the fruits of it in my life. I mean, it's like a light switches on when you see the truth of it in your life. You're like, how could I have been missing this my entire life? I've been thinking that my emotions are just this sort of, I don't know, nonsensical thing that sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. But the universe doesn't really work like that, right? Like there's nothing, especially in the human body, there's nothing that exists without a specific purpose, right? And so when you know that like we are the immediate extension of the source, we are, plugged into the divine intelligence, that makes sense that we would have some kind of guidance system inherent in our being that would let us know when we're straying far away from our created order, right? In the same exact way as when you place your hand on a hot stove, what happens to your hand?
right.
Exactly.
It gets burned, right? And you pull it back really quick because your physical body has this defense mechanism that's letting you know when you're treating your body correctly or incorrectly, right? And when you do something that's bad for your body, you're made to feel pain. And that pain is there to give you the motivation to stop doing what you're doing, right? And when you do something good for your body, you feel pleasure, which is like a motivation to keep doing what you're doing. And so it's the exact same thing with your emotions. The only reason people have an unhealthy relationship with their emotions is because we kind of inherently believe as a collective that our emotions are speaking to our circumstances. Like, I have a presentation at work, I don't do well, I bomb, I feel horrible about it. I go home feeling negative. That's a indicator that I'm a loser, right? That's kind of what people think.
Exactly.
But your emotions are never speaking to your circumstances. Your emotions don't even see your circumstances. Your emotions are only speaking to your perceptions about them. They're speaking to the way you're thinking about them. And so, whenever you adopt a point of view about anything in reality that runs in contradiction to the way reality actually is, you're made to feel negative to give you the motivation to correct that thinking. It's a alarm system that's letting you know you have misperceived something. So in the case of the presentation at work, just for an easy example, you feel negative not because you perform negatively, which means you're a loser. You feel negative because you're assuming that your value has anything to do with how you performed. And you're thinking, oh, I must be less valuable because I bombed at work today. And your
Right.
guidance system saying, no, that's not true. Your value has nothing to do with that. So correct your thinking and you'll feel good again. And every time that you correct your thinking, you feel great. And correcting your thinking really just means, you know, like love, joy, happiness, peace. They all just mean not holding any points of view that are in opposition to what is true, if that makes sense.
So you would tell someone that is sort of struggling with day-to-day depression, or feeling like things aren't changing quite quickly enough, or the world's horrible or whatever, just these sorts of thoughts, and they're down. That could also be connected with some of their other thinking, or just where they're at in their thinking, or baggage. Because I know baggage, a lot of religious baggage can bring you down that way, if
Sure
it's
can.
fear and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, it's literally impossible to have a negative emotion without thinking about something. So your negative emotions are always suggesting you to correct your thinking. And I say suggesting because they're not. It's not like it's wrong to misperceive. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just out of alignment with what is actually true of reality. And so your guidance system is just letting you know that, like, hey, you're allowed to hold this position if you want. Everything is allowed in creation. But as long as you do, you're going to feel bad because, like, if you look at it from a metaphysical standpoint, the universe, infinity, is already full up with itself, right? It's already completely infinite. So it contains literally everything. And so there's no more room in infinity. So the only thing that can't exist in infinity is lack. It's impossible. So when you are projecting the illusion of lack, or, that's basically what fear is, right? It's you perceiving anything through the filter of lack. When you are fearing something or thinking you lack something, you're actually creating a state of consciousness that doesn't actually exist. And so it's as if you're creating sort of a distortion in reality. And so reality is kind of pointing at you and cluing you in, like, hey, you're going the wrong way, and you feel negative about it. And so if you want to stop feeling negative, you correct your thinking, and then you feel good again. So it's just sort of like the universe keeping itself in check.
where would you tell people to start if? Okay, so in your analogy, and I love that too, because we know, like, if we put our hand on a hot pan or something, it's sort of almost automatic that we jerk it back. But I think some people have their hand on the pan, if you will, emotionally, and they don't really know what do they need to move. Where should they start examining their, the root of this pain that they find themselves? What would you
Yeah,
suggest?
great question. The great thing about the emotional guidance system is that it doesn't just tell you that you're incorrect, but it's like laser like with its accuracy. It doesn't just tell you that you're incorrect, it tells you what type of incorrect you are, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
like, the feeling of depression is very different than anger or
Mm-hmm.
insecurity or anxiety, fear. They all have different, sort of different flair to them. And so, based on the type of negative feeling you have, you can go right to the type of thought that should be causing that feeling, right? And they're all a projection of lack in some way. You have to believe that you lack or are missing something to feel any of those manifestations. So that's kind of the basic point of it, is where am I perceiving lack? Because
Where
I
am I
know.
perceiving lack? I love that, man. That's
Yes.
that's a great way, because I think that's what it is. A lot of the times, if you're impatient, waiting for, say, I know in religion, this is a good example. You're waiting for the return of Christ or whatever, and then you can kind of become, I don't know, just
Mhm.
depressed and all this. But you're perceiving yourself as lacking enough to do what you need to do right now, and that you need this big event to happen to move forward. So that's the lack right there, right?
Yeah, that was a big reason why I left my religion, was because it's so, I mean, Christianity, mainstream Christianity anyway, is so heavily lack biased. Like, everything is, they think that that poverty mentality is like a virtuous thing, Like, oh, let's just sing worship songs about how horrible and wretched we are and how unworthy we are. And they literally worship themselves for being unworthy. Like, it's like almost like a fetish or something, and it just doesn't feel good. It feels wrong. It's like, God, if God really is good and infinite and perfect, he's not capable of creating some unworthy piece of shit.
Right.
It's
Like, everything is worthy
programming.
of God.
Yeah, absolutely. Programming, like
Yep,
Sherry's saying.
that's all it really is.
But with that, they have more control over the people. So I think it kind of stems back to this whole idea of dependency, right? Because
Yeah.
there again, if you're lacking something and you need us to achieve or connect to God, or whatever it is, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
It's that codependency thing, and that's still rooted in lack. Like, you don't have enough to achieve it by yourself.
Yeah, you're
Come
not
to
good enough
us.
by yourself. You need me.
Right, exactly.
Well,
So that's cool. So moving beyond that
I have a
is
funny
huge.
example of something that
Yeah, let's hear
happened
it.
to me the other day. It's kind of embarrassing, but just to show a proof of this, I'll give my example. Okay. So the other day I was at work and something happened. We were talking about like hot wings or something, and I said that hot wings were made from like Cornish game hens because they had little legs, and everybody was like picking on me, and they said that they weren't made like that, and it was from real chickens and everything. And then I felt stupid and I felt dumb, and I
Mm-hmm.
got myself all like that. And then like I've been a nurse for 25 years, and then like I made a mistake after that. Because I felt like I was stupid, and then I like made a mistake, and it messed up my whole little day because I got knocked off because usually
Off your vibe. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always really high vibe, and I have so many synchronicities to where they're just like miracles. It's like the whole world just, it's like my own little thing that just,
Yeah.
like just for me. And then all of a sudden that happened and it just messed me up for a minute. And then I said, wait a minute, I got to fix it, because I knew right away why I made the mistake, was because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my example.
Yeah. Sometimes you can get into almost like a vibrational snowball effect, right?
Yeah.
One bad thing happens and then it just continues to go that direction.
But I caught it. And I said, wait a minute. Well, I know if this is all from the hot wings.
Mm-hmm.
And I fixed it.
And the funny thing is, sometimes all it takes is really just taking a moment to take a deep breath and just, which, it doesn't take that long, 5-10 seconds or something, just to bring yourself, center yourself again.
Or
Because,
smile.
yeah, you're right. I mean, say you're a waitress and you mess up an order or forget something or something along those lines. And then after that, you start doing real crappy because you're still worried about the mistake you just made. And then you're making more and it's snowballing, like you said,
You're creating your reality.
Exactly. You're becoming a frequency match for what you don't want in that
There
instant.
you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so you wanted to go into Sherry. You wanted to go into some of the cool out of body stuff that he.
Well, yeah,
About.
because here's what happened on when I can't. I always look at videos for that. I like to look at like younger people's videos because I love to hear, I don't know, like little teenage boy in their room telling about their out of body experience and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Well, I came across Aaron's video and he was just like, astral projected in one day. I like looked it up, looked how to do it. I was reading a blog about it and everything, and then I went and did it, and I was like, that's so cool. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because a lot of people think that I'm saying I mastered astral projection in one day.
Oh no, you just like pulled off some,
Yeah.
Some results. That's important, though.
Yeah. A lot
results in a single day. That's pretty cool.
It's really not that big of a deal. Like a lot of people do it, and I actually get a ton of comments on my video. People saying, "Oh, I tried your method and it worked the first time." So it's not that big of a deal to be able to induce one. The mastery of that art is a big deal. That's much more difficult to do. But a lot of people astral project on accident just since they're a kid or something. I get a lot of comments from people like that too. So I just thought it was amazing because it was right after I left my church and moved back to Oklahoma, where I had gone to school. And I was just seeking, and I was looking at meditation videos and talking with people on forum boards about it. And I ran into some people talking about astral projection. And I had heard that term before, but didn't have any clue what it meant. It was like, levitation to me, like just crazy kooky stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was reading their experiences, and I'm an Aries, so I'm like super passionate about stuff when I get into it. And I was reading it, and I couldn't believe what I was reading. Like, these people are saying that they're leaving their body at night in their dreams and flying around the astral planes and going to the spirit world and meeting their guides and doing all this stuff. If that's true, I've got to see if I can do this.
Yeah.
And there's no way these people are all of these hundreds of people are lying, just making it up for attention. So I looked up the techniques they were doing and tried it, and I induced a very short little, astral projection where I was flying through some tunnel of light, and I don't think I got out of my body, but I was in some other density and trying to press into this tunnel to pop out of my body, and it didn't work the first time. I sort of came back to my senses with my eyes closed, still mask on. I was like, oh my gosh, that was nuts. It was very terrifying because it was so real,
Oh, yeah.
But I was like, let me do that again, and this time I'm not going to be a wuss. I'm going to go for it. So I did it again. Sure enough, the tunnel appeared again, and I was trying to like sit up in bed, like I would, as if I would sit up into the tunnel, and it just made the noise a lot louder and the light a lot brighter, but I couldn't actually get out. And so from that moment on, I was like, oh, this is real as it gets, and like I gotta keep exploring this. So I pretty much devoted my life to learning astral projection for about a year.
It's intoxicating once you learn about it.
It is pretty cool. And you know what? I think I guess the understanding most people have is that this is some sort of gift that you have to have, or it's only for some people. But I think that anybody that takes the time to at least try it will probably see some results. This isn't just for certain people. I mean, anybody can probably do this, right?
Yeah, I think anyone can do it.
Or we all do it at night, technically, right?
Yeah,
when we go to sleep.
Do it at night unconsciously. But it is crazy how some people just have this natural propensity for it. It's like their neurochemistry is tuned a certain way that allows them to just blast into the astral a lot easier. Whereas some people are more like a closed gateway that takes a lot more work, you know. But
that's what I think. And I've studied this so long. I'm telling you, there is only a lot of people won't like hearing this, but I found a link in talking to people. For some reason, the melatonin levels in the darker someone's skin is, the more it seems like the more they naturally have this happen. It's unbelievable. It's something that I know. So I tried taking a whole bunch of melatonin several years ago, and it didn't do anything. It's not. Yeah.
Did you know anyway, that there's a supplement you can take?
Which one?
It's called galantamine.
Oh yeah, I studied all of those. I bought that and stuff, but I need to get it back out.
What's it called again?
Galantamine.
It's called galantamine.
With a G? Galantamine?
Yeah, I bought some Dreamleaf, Lucid Dream pills.
I got the picture up here.
Oh, I might have to try that one. That brand, Dream Tech. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hold it up one more time?
Yeah.
I want to make it big for everybody.
I'll have to go get the one that I have out. And
okay, Dream Tech.
So I can show Aaron mine.
Okay, perfect. 4 milligram.
The one I found that kind of worked was by, it's called Dreamleaf. It's called Dreamleaf. I'm going to get it in a minute. It's cool, though, because the pills are red and blue. And you take the blue one at night and go to sleep, wake up at 3 a.m., take the red one.
Oh, interesting. Never seen that before.
Pretty cool, kind of matrixy. But anyway, I wrote down these 8 steps that you had. I thought you could talk about each one. The first one was to choose the right time.
Yeah. Yeah, super important because, like, your brain needs a certain, you need to be in a certain brainwave state to project because, again, astral projection is, it's any time that you are able to project your conscious or awareness into any vibrational density level. So even this density level, like we call it the real time zone. I don't like that term, but the waking state here, you can have an out of body experience, right? And pop out of your body at night and float above your bed. But that's no less an astral projection than dreaming at night is. You're in another density level at a higher vibration. And so it seems more ethereal, but it's the same reality you're always in. There's only one reality, and it's not a disconnected, stitched together thing of different dimensions or something. It's just a spectrum of density. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so, sorry.
That's okay. We love animals here.
He's a cutie. So you have to choose the right state because you're trying to get your brain, if you think of your brain as like a radio station, you're trying to tune to a certain radio station with it, you have to get your neurochemistry tuned to a certain frequency to be able to project into that dimension you're trying to go to. So trying to do it at night before you go to sleep is the worst time because your body's primed to want to dive into sleep, into deep sleep, and you need to be in the I think it's the theta wave state, which is like coming into the dream sleep at the end of your sleep cycle, stage 4. That's when it's really prime time to astral project. And so it's almost never going to work if you try to do it at night. But after about 4 or 5 hours of sleep, you've had that, stage 1 to 3 of deep sleep, and your body's ready to go into dream sleep. And so doing it in the morning is usually the easiest time. I like doing it in the morning the best. I call it the waking back to bed method. So you wake up, go to the bathroom. Here. You too?
Yeah, that definitely works the best for me. I think your body's just so tired at night, man. It's like it's ready to actually get some rest. But by morning time, it's like at least had enough rest that you can kind of hang on to a little bit of your consciousness
totally
without drifting off.
Yeah, because you're trying to get into that body asleep, mind awake
Right.
state. And so, yeah, it's not going to happen as easily when you're trying to go to bed when you're exhausted. So I like in the morning, but I also will do it when I nap around like 2 p.m. or something. If I take a quick
Mm-hmm.
nap, I've also had some projections during that time.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, the next one was to get comfortable and make sure that you're alone.
Yeah, that's just kind of a common sense thing, right? Like if you have a dog who's going to bark, or a partner who might come in the room. Like I've had this happen a couple times where like my ex at the time came in the room when I was in a projection and woke me up, and I was like, no,
Yeah.
like the biggest
Like,
bummer ever, because you try
yeah,
so hard to get there,
right. And
It's a
then
common
someone
sense thing.
messes it.
Well, I did
Okay.
that on accident one night. I was laying there and I felt the buzzing and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm about to go out of body. And then my wife came to bed and she like kind of like started like, her leg was bumping me and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I'm like, no, no, please don't touch me. And I'm like, I'm so close to going, and the next thing I know, I'm like waking up later. So I
Yeah,
ended up
it's
falling asleep
frustrating.
anyway, but it can be frustrating.
The next one was the use of binaural beats, and you had mentioned an app that you liked called Ananda.
Yeah, so that's a good tip for beginners. That's what I did the first time that I projected in, like I talked about in that video. Um, Binaural beats are like a frequency wave you play in your ears. You can look them up on YouTube, but I like having apps that'll do it for you, and you can time them and program them to shut off at a certain time. And so what I'd like to do is program them to play for like 20 minutes while I'm doing the visualizations and going through those progressions. And
Hmm.
then I like to kind of fall asleep doing visualizations, and then I will become at some point lucid, not in a dream, but like in that body asleep, mind awake state,
Hmm.
where I feel like you said, the almost like a buzzing. You get the vibrations in your body,
Hmm.
and those vibrations can be like really intense, like
Oh
almost like
yeah.
a golf ball is gyrating in your chest. And that's when I
And
know
it's
I'm.
scary the first time. That's I think what pulls a lot of people out of it because I thought something was wrong with my health. I thought I don't know, am I having a heart attack? What the heck's
Yep.
going on?
Yeah, people get so freaked out because it's all new sensations.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to let people know what to expect.
Yeah, with me, I had something weird, and this is really funny, and because I went to the Monroe Institute, and I actually mentioned this to one of the teachers, and they acted like I was being ridiculous. And I've heard other people mention this. I call it like a pineal pop because it sounds like a gunshot going off in your head, like a bang. Have you ever had that?
I don't think I've had a gunshot, but that's definitely common to have noises like that. Or what I usually get is I'll hear someone screaming bloody murder, like super loud, or say your name. Sometimes they'll whisper my name. It's kind of
Freaky
creepy.
out here, like Sherry, and you're like, what? No.
And
And
it's
just that
really
right there, people are like, "I'm out."
it's almost it almost seems audible. I've had that happen one time and I was taking a nap. My wife was really at work, but I heard her come in and like anxiously say like she was quietly but urgently trying to wake me up and she's like, Shane, like that, like really.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it sounded, and I opened my eyes, and it was like towards my closet, where even if she had come in the room, she wouldn't have been on the other side of the bed where it came from. And but it seemed like it was so audible, man. I was like,
It's
oh my
it's
gosh,
just as real as any sound you've heard,
yeah,
because it's literally a remembered sound. It's a subconscious. It's called
yeah.
a hypnagogic sensation. It's literally like a tape recorder playing of random sounds you've actually heard before.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And I've
That,
heard, I felt like there's like a train just going by each ear, and I've had that. And a lot of times I'll have where I feel like my shoulders sinking down into the bed or the couch, like going literally into it. And then sometimes my heart seems like it's beating so fast, like faster than you could ever imagine, and then I'll either start having my legs float up,
that's
just
the
my
golf ball
legs.
thing you're talking about, probably, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the vibrations. It feels like your heartbeat almost.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's so cool.
crazy.
Interesting. Okay. The next one was okay, the visualizations and affirmations. But yeah, that you were talking about like the roller coaster and like the affirmations and the importance of saying one that doesn't keep your this you taught me so much with this because I started thinking about it with just affirmations in life. Like
Mhm.
you don't want to say, I will have
Yeah.
this happen because that keeps it in the future.
Yep.
I like that, I am, or yeah, that's cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's always got to be present tense because that's all that really exists. No matter what you're doing, whether it's an astral projection or law of attraction or anything to do with spirituality, you have to think from the perspective of the universe, of the source. From the top down is always the best way to approach anything. It's the most accurate and efficient way to get anything done. So in your affirmations, it works exactly like that, where if you say, I will remember I'm dreaming, I'm going to remember that I'm dreaming, that doesn't exist from the universe. There is no I'm going to, there's just now, right? So you say, I am dreaming, this is a dream, or I realize I'm dreaming. Any of those will work. But the visualizations and affirmations is definitely where like the rubber meets the road for projecting. The better you are at visualizing and really bringing your affirmations to life, the more success you're going to have. So there's infinite amount of different ways you can do this, but the general idea is you want to bring something that is easy for you to tangibly bring to life with all your sense perceptions. So for me, for some reason, just a baseball worked the best. I would remember what a baseball felt like really easily. But a lot of people do the method of like walking around your house and like seeing your kitchen counter, touching it, feeling the cold steel, feeling your feet on the carpet, brushing your hand past objects, and just do that. Like literally just fall asleep doing that. And that sort of primes your consciousness to start traveling around your house, which
Right.
means you'll awake out of your body a lot of the time.
And that's how people end up, like they're going to get a drink of water or something and their hand goes through the faucet and they're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And then they realize, yeah.
They like sleepwalk their astral body into the bathroom.
Yeah. It's awesome. But let's see. The next one was, to make sure that you fall asleep excited as you can. That's such a good one.
Yes. So some people misunderstand what I mean by this. I don't mean like, oh my God, I want to, like, you don't want to be excited like energetically, but you want to have an anticipation, an expectation that you're going to project. Like believe it as if it's an foregone conclusion, right? Like how excited would you feel
if you knew you were doing it?
Absolute fact, you would have a projection when you fell asleep. You would have this excited feeling, right? This anticipation, this expectation. So like do that, expect it's going to happen, and that will, increase the likelihood of it exponentially.
Yeah, that's a good one. And let's see. And then the next one was about hypnagogic sensations. Those are cool. Yeah. Go ahead.
Talk about that. So those are like signposts that you're going the right direction. So when you start hearing someone whisper your name, or a train, or a gunshot, or a scream, and a lot of times they're not creepy. I don't want to get people like freaked out. It's not always creepy, but you'll hear something, or you'll feel something, or you'll see like an image. What's happened for me a couple of times, and this makes perfect sense because I always had a lot of like I was very arachnophobic growing up. Hated spiders. So on three separate occasions, I would all of a sudden have a flash of an image, just every bit as real as an actual image of a spider walking across right in front of me. And I mean, you can see the hairs on its legs. It's glowing orange and black colors, almost more real than a real spider would look. And that's a sign that you are going into an astral projection. You're going in the right direction. So if you have any of these kinds of hypnagogic sensations, take it as a thumbs up that what you're doing is working, and just stay relaxed, stay calm, and keep doing what you're doing. Because if you freak out at the hypnagogic sensation, you're going to probably wake up and ruin the projection.
Yeah. I know one thing that happens to me, I often wonder if it's some kind of psychic thing that like, is not developed, because what I always see when I'm falling asleep is like lights on emergency vehicles and stuff, like at a house. There'll be different houses, each time at night or whatever. Yeah. It's like, and then one will be pulling up and there's like a fire truck and the ambulance and the police and everything, and it's a different house. Like every night I see that when I'm going to sleep.
That makes sense. It's a very vivid image.
It's weird. Okay, let's see. And then we have the exit techniques. Probably roll out of your body.
Yes, this is where it gets really fun.
So not difficult. It's easy. Gotta be positive.
If you do it when it's time to do it, it's very easy. I I think what I forgot to mention about the hypnagogic sensation is that the big part of my personal method is I learned this after, dozens of times of trying to project. If I could get into that body asleep, mind awake state, there would be that little, almost like tinnitus sounding ringing noise in my ear.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, I locked onto the sound, and I saw that it would increase the sound's volume very dramatically. And so I was like, what if I just make it as loud as possible? So I tried it, and it's very terrifying at first because it's so loud. It feels like your eardrums are going to explode. But it's not your actual ears hearing it, because there is no jet engine noise happening in your bedroom, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's your pineal gland. And so it's almost like that noise is the frequency that you're trying to channel into to pop into the astral. So I would listen to it. It would get like a jet engine level loud, and then it would suddenly come to an absolute halt, dead silence. And at the moment I felt the silence, I would feel my body getting very loose and floaty. And so when I'm in that stage, that's when I know I'm ready to pop out. So the rolling out of bed technique for me is the easiest, because like it's pretty easy to imagine what it would feel like to barrel roll out of bed. Like tuck your arms in like this and just roll to your left or your right. And I would always do it towards the side that I'm closest to mimic that falling out of bed sensation, because it's like a panic response from your body. So you can really bring that feeling to life in your head. And that you have to do something, like some people will climb a rope out of their body. Do something to get your consciousness to cue in that you would like to move its location somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really all it is.
A ladder, acting like you're going up a ladder, works good for me. And this is going to sound dumb, but what I found the most is to pretend like you're swimming out, like you're pushing yourself out. But,
yeah, anything that works for you is valid.
Yeah, one time I did that, and then I was like going to my daughter's room, and instead of moving by just thought, like I'm going to Darby's room, I'm in the hallway swimming in one spot, out of body. I have stuff like that happen all the time. It's like you said, the mastering part is important too. These are like beginning things.
Experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a journey, and I'd say if something doesn't work, to move on and try something else. And like Megan's saying, it's probably just different for everybody.
It's all trial and error.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, most importantly, stay calm and don't freak out, because it's easy to like freak out, because like if you see a bush blowing in the wind outside and you think, oh my gosh, that's a monster. Well, guess what? It's going to turn into one.
Exactly. Yeah, just in terms of like keeping the experience stable while you're out of body, or you're never actually out of body, but while you're in the astral or whatever, if you get too excited, you will wake up. It sort of like triggers the adrenaline response in your body, and which wakes you up. So the key to staying in the astral as long as you can is to stay calm. Like what I like to tell people is approach everything in the astral plane with a sense of open-minded skepticism. So
right.
Don't always believe what you're seeing, but test it out for yourself, because a lot of times it's not really there, or it's a projection from your mind. And like you just mentioned, if you take something you're seeing dead seriously, it will increase the projection of it. So like that's what happens a lot of times to people that have like a scary experience. Even a nightmare is basically the same thing. You're seeing a shadow puppet that's not really real. It's just a projection. And you get afraid of it, and the fear is energy that fuels it, right? And so then it gets more scary, which you get more scared. And so it's this sort of snowball effect that you keep generating this scary object, but there's nothing actually there. You're just creating.
We're really creating it.
Yeah.
That's a trip.
So kind of approach it like, I don't know about this. Is this really there? I'm not so sure. And that sort of calm attitude helps you feel relaxed, and it makes the experience way more stable. And you can begin walking around and touching objects and bringing the sense perceptions to life. And while you're doing that, your environment becomes very real. Like it just comes alive in full 3D Technicolor. And
that's almost like you have to deepen it, because I've noticed like before when I got out of body that everything would look kind of staticky, like almost like little black dots or something. But if I like rub my arms and everything and like start touching the table and everything around it, like phases in.
Yep.
And then see, I'm not good at expressing it like you are, and then I know one time I was like touching this end table, And I was like, oh, the fireplace is rocks. That would be really textured. I want to feel the fireplace. What's so cool is that I didn't move from the table to the fireplace. It was because my thought went there. I just was like, table, fireplace. There was no middle,
Yeah.
because that's how I learned that you have to think about where you want to go.
Can't
And
you go
that's
anywhere like that?
Yep. This is actually what's really cool for me. This is why I'm so passionate about this, because astral projection is what taught me about law of attraction. Like everything I know and teach about law of attraction comes from my experience of astral projecting. Because I realized as I was going through this, the experience is so wild and bizarre compared to your normal waking state that it leaves you questioning a bunch of things about reality. Like, why is this dimension I'm in when I'm projecting so different than the regular one? Like, what is reality,
Right.
And I started to kind of clue in on the fact that, like, it's actually not a different reality. It's just the same exact reality at a much higher frequency level. So the reason you pop out of your body and don't see anything is because perception is creation. And we assume that something should be there, right? But nothing can exist apart from perception first. So that's what quantum physics shows us, right? The observer effect. The superposition doesn't collapse into a particle until it's observed. And when it's not being observed, it's as if nothing is there. It's a field of potential.
Right.
So in your astral experiences, when you pop out of body or whatever, you're in an environment that's waiting for you to tell it what to do. But you're so used to believing in this idea that we're victims of reality, where it's all out there already and it's telling us what to do. It's pushing us around. But in reality, you are generating every experience you have with your perception of it. And so our physical bodies plug us into this reality, right? Our mind, our body, our feelings, our senses. And so it's impossible not to observe something while you're in this physical body. You have your heart's beating, this air, oxygen, temperature, visuals all around you. So you're always observing things. So if you want to manipulate your reality in real life, which is what we call law of attraction, you have to start seeing what you prefer to see over what you are seeing. So you got to become blind to your circumstances and use the power of your own imagination to see what you prefer to see. And then just like in a lucid dream, like if you do this in a lucid dream or an astral projection, whatever you're seeing in your mind will start to condense, like almost like in a smoky looking thing. And then the object will harden. And it only takes like 5 to 10 seconds or whatever. A lot of times it's instantaneous, the better you get at it. And so the exact same thing is happening in this reality, but this reality is millions and millions of times denser than a dream reality is.
That's what it was, like a dense consensus reality.
Yes. So it's much, it's a slower vibration. So things take a lot longer than a dream does. You can do it right away, right? It's just a higher frequency level. So everything is happening the same exact way, just at different states of vibration, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Brilliant.
It's awesome.
Did you have any more? Was there any more steps to that? Was it the last of it? The stuff?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was it.
Okay, because there was a question about Dead GBK was asking about waking in your dream.
Mm-hmm.
Becoming lucid, I guess.
Yeah.
If you will.
Like how to become lucid?
Yeah. And how that differs from what we've been talking about. Is there...
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lucid dream is another form of astral projection. There's the sort of the more ignorant view of astral projection, and I don't mean ignorant like in a negative way, just not really understanding the full spectrum of what this thing is the belief that an astral projection is only an out-of-body experience, right? So if I popped out of my body and floated above it and saw myself, I astral projected. If I had a lucid dream, I'm not astral projecting. And that's just a wildly inconsistent definition. Like I already explained, there's only one reality. It's not a disconnected thing, right? And so it's just a spectrum of density. So anywhere you project your consciousness, even like astral travel versus astral projection, astral travel is just a form of astral projection, but it's you projecting your awareness without an energy body to a vibrational density. So it's basically,
you mean like remote viewing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Remote viewing and astral travel are the exact same thing. So there's a bunch of different forms of astral projection in the same way that there are many forms of martial arts, right? So if astral projection is martial arts, then an OBE could be like jujitsu, A lucid dream is like Muay Thai. Astral travel is kickboxing, right? So they're different forms of the same exact experience. It's the same exact thing happening in different ways or different density levels. So in a lucid dream, you're already in an astral projection, right? But you're not conscious of it. So it's a spectrum of lucidity, right? So you need to push yourself up the spectrum of lucidity in a number of different ways or methods you can go about that. But it has to be something you train your subconscious mind to do, because again, you aren't conscious of the fact that you are in a projection. So you're sort of like in a sleep state, right? You're taking everything seriously. And so when you stop taking the dream seriously, you become lucid and realize, oh, this isn't my normal waking state. That must mean I'm dreaming, right? And then you can control that dream with your sense perception. So what I would do a lot of times is it's called reality checks, where you basically, like, all throughout your day, you start asking questions that you would want to ask in a dream to become lucid. So you start questioning things like, you just say to yourself, hold on a second. You look around your environment and say, is this a dream? Am I dreaming right now? And don't just say it, but actually really ask the question, like, is this a dream? Consider it for a moment and then go about your day. Just doing that like 3 to 5 times a day, I guarantee you'll be in a dream within a week and be like, is this a dream? And then if you really questioned it in real life, you'll really question it in the dream. And you'll go, oh yeah, like, I can't fly in real life, and you're lucid, and then you can have fun.
Yeah, and a good to expand on that is to say, like, okay, am I dreaming right now? And then be like, okay, where was I 20 minutes ago? Yeah. Like, was I, see if there's fluidity to it, because in a dream you can be, for instance, one time I was having this dream, and then all of a sudden I'm like laying on the floor with my mom in Walmart, and then I'm like, how did I get in Walmart on the floor? Oh my God, I'm dreaming, and then I could just like take off and do whatever,
Yep.
But
what's interesting is if you put out the intention period that you would like to have lucid dreams, you're sort of like asking your subconscious mind to set up dream experiences for you to become lucid. Yeah. So like an example of that was I was doing this intention of, I want to have a lucid dream. I really want to have a lucid dream. And I had a dream a few nights later where I was with a bunch of friends in like a lake pier where boats would dock and stuff. We're just talking and stuff. And I walked a circle around my friends in the dream. And my friend's logo went from like Nike on his shirt, and then it was Adidas when I came around the second time.
Wow.
And I was like, wait a second, your shirt just said Nike. And I looked at him, and he just had this sort of deadpan look in his eyes. And this is a very common thing that happens when you become lucid, is that your dream characters are just characters your mind created, like in a movie. So they literally have a script, and they aren't able to relate with you outside of that script. And so when you start to try and relate to them outside of the programmed dream, they can't communicate with you anymore. So all my friends just sort of froze there and stared at me. And I was like, I'm in a dream. And I started flying and stuff. So it's pretty interesting.
I got one for you, though, Aaron. Let me ask you this. Do you know who Rory McSweeney is?
I do not.
Okay, let me tell you. This is really cool. You need to go do this, because I did it. It's called wakeupinyourdreams.com. And you just go there and you make an account. And you make your little code name, like, I don't know, whatever.
Lucid Dreamer 550.
There you go. Okay. So when you're out of body and you run into these dream characters, and you might say, hey, do you have a, wake up in your dreams thing or whatever? They've had people come back and say, look, I ran into Lucid Dreamer 550. Punch it in. And then I find you, and that's the person that I interacted with in the dream.
Wow.
So
that's a great idea.
Let me blow your mind, because it's not all dream characters. I'm going to tell you this one story too, real quick. Robert Wagner, he wrote Exploring the World of Lucid Dreaming and Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple. Mm-hmm. There was a guy that was having an encounter with a woman or whatever. And she was like smoking a cigarette, and he said something like, well, I guess I won't see you again since you're just a dream or whatever. And she was like, you think I'm just a dream? And she like burned him with the cigarette. And when he woke up, he had a scar on his arm, and it's still there.
I've heard stories like that.
Yeah.
Pretty trippy.
Pretty interesting, though. I just think it's interesting. So there are some connect. I do believe that they have shared out of body experiences and stuff like that people have had. That's really neat. There's someone I'm trying to get on, Erin Pavlina. She wrote a great book about astral projection. You can read it in like one night, and
nice.
it is just jam packed with that. Her and her friends would like go out of body together because they were all so good at it.
Yeah,
And
I'm so jealous I do that.
I know how that's so cool. It's like a little glove. And at first they would like fight demons and stuff with sword, like a video game.
Right.
That was kind of their thing. And it's really pretty neat.
Yeah.
It really could be like a video game, though. If you figured out how to do it, then you could start meeting people there and create whatever you want. And I actually had a dream like that not too long ago, where I was in the dream and somebody's like, "You got to see this world I created." And then a moment later, I was in this 3D world, but it was very real, just like reality. I never put a headset on or anything, and it was this world he created that looked like, I don't know, World of Warcraft or one of these sort of games where
Yep.
it's inner Earth looking or whatever, but it didn't look like Earth, but it was it looked very real, and I think we're moving into an era where we're going to be able to do things like that more, probably.
Absolutely. That was actually something that the astral projection sort of gurus that I was learning from on these forum boards, they were doing at their level that exact thing, where they were creating a reality in the astral. It was like they would do all kinds of experiments to try and map the astral and stuff. And they're like, I'm going to create like an island or something unique to me with a house there and all my favorite stuff. And I'm going to see if I can get my friends to visit it. So these astral projection masters in the forum board were trying to do this. And they would talk about their findings from it, that like the first thing was the reality you created in the astral would start to slowly fade away if you didn't give it conscious attention.
Right.
Because again, it's a much higher vibrational density level. And so, perception is creation. So like they would literally have to think about it throughout their day, because if they didn't, they would project back to it and it wouldn't really be there anymore. It'd be like very, like a third of it would be left and it'd be fading away.
It's kind of like the observer thing we were just talking about. You're not observing it. It's slowly going back to a waveform,
It's the same exact thing.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because when you look into people that have like studied like the afterlife and stuff, like William Buhlman, and they'll talk about how like people have went out of body to visit loved ones, and they've had like this one boy comes to mind. I've brought this up before, but he went to see his dad, and his dad was a fisherman, and he was like, "Son, what are you doing here?" and all this, and he was fishing. He's like, "You got to look at my pond. It has salt water and freshwater fish in it," because he had created that in his heaven.
Yeah.
And like you can go visit. I really believe that the afterlife realms is that's what it is. It's like a lucid dream.
Basically.
It's going to be. That's what I believe.
But lucid dreams can really become more real and vivid than this waking state is.
Well, yeah. I've brought that up so many times too, because you don't have stuff on your mind here, like I got to pay that bill and I got to go here tomorrow and all that. You just totally, yeah.
Much more sense of freedom.
But I wanted to talk to you about that. If you felt like we were living in some kind of like simulation type thing, or Shane, you'd be good at what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. What do you think as far as the idea? Because I think of it maybe as more of a consciousness, not like a computer that we're in, but maybe like a consciousness sort of. I don't know. Like I think that's probably the closest thing we have to it, would be like a hologram projection type something or other. But how do you view reality?
Yeah, I definitely don't think that it's like an alien technology that created a simulation or any of that stuff, like, the Matrix type of stuff. But it is most certainly a hologram, in a sense of what we see is not what it appears to be.
Right.
Everything is actually just light at different densities. If you think about like ice versus water versus steam, the more dense the water becomes, the H2O becomes more like ice, right? It slows its vibration down, and ice seems very, immovable and dense and real, whereas steam is very ethereal and it's almost not real, right? But it's actually the same exact thing at different density levels. And so light is just, what we call matter, right? Scientists have never actually found what we call matter, because every time they look into matter, all they see is these buzzing strings of light, these vibrations of light in these entangled quantum relationships. And so, they kind of look at it and go, well, we can't consider this to be real, like what we consider real, because these are popping in and out of existence and teleporting and entangling with each other and defying every law we have of Newtonian physics. So in that sense, yeah, it is very much a simulation where it's just a zoomed out spectrum of light that when you look at it far enough away, almost like you can imagine the Eiffel Tower or the Empire State Building if it was made out of Legos. If you were far enough away, you would have no idea it was made out of Legos. It would look exactly the same as the regular building.
Right.
The closer you get into it, you go, oh, this isn't a real building. It's all made out of Legos.
Yeah.
That's kind of what your hand is. It's like this is actually just light packed together so densely that when you zoom out far enough, it looks like a hand is really here.
So you think these are sort of like these are like human spacesuits, basically, and what brings them to life? Our consciousness within them. Do you feel like that's just a fraction of what we really are, or do you feel like we're somewhere else and sort of controlling our bodies from somewhere else, or?
Yeah, another really great question. My theory is that in non-dual spirituality, we say that like you are consciousness in a body, right? But I think it's actually more complicated than that, because if you think about like everything starts from the source or God or the creator, right? And it has no objective qualities. It is formless. It is beyond anything you can conceptualize, and everything else is an appearance inside of it, right? So it's always beyond whatever you can grasp. It's like a snake eating its own tail, right? The only thing it can actually know is that it is itself, and beyond that, it's infinite. So if it's going to project itself into a finite object, like a person, to have a finite localized experience, it has to do so. It has to veil itself down many, many layers.
Yes.
So like we have a soul, we have a spirit, right? And the higher you go up those density levels, the more, the less it becomes more formless. It becomes less phenomenal, right? Like if you've ever had I call it Focus 4. It's the Frank Keppel model. Focus 4 is like the divine realm where you're like one with the all and the source, and it's like ecstasy and bliss beyond description and stuff. But there's no like real experience there in terms of like there's not like a person there, or you don't have a body there.
And people get bored there real quick, believe it or not.
What's that?
People can get bored there real quick, believe it or not.
Yeah, and like what you're actually able to experience there is like only a tiny fraction of what's actually there, because again, you are being projected down who knows how many density levels, so you have a very finite, limited awareness compared to what's actually there. But so I think that we have a soul. It makes sense that the source would project its consciousness into little individual focal points, because it's trying to explore itself. It's trying to taste itself in every way, and it's infinite. So it doesn't make sense that it would just create one focal point, right? But it would create infinite amounts of them all throughout the cosmos. And those individual souls or focal points of the one consciousness are going on these soul journeys of incarnations, right? Where it's all an evolutionary process. So it starts at the first density level, which would be like rock, water, an element of some kind. It is consciousness, but it's not aware yet. And then level 2 of density 2 would be like an animal or a plant, where it has awareness, where it can respond to its environment, but it doesn't know that it exists yet. So consciousness hasn't like flipped in on itself yet and knows that it exists. Third density is you and I, is like a person, where we are self-aware. We know we exist. We know we are consciousness in a body. And so it kind of continues from there. So there's 4, 5, 6, and 7th density is like the gateway density, where you're almost back to that place of merging back into the source. And then the 8th density is the new octave, sort of like a musical scale. And you start the incarnational journey over again, but like in a totally new octave.
Exactly.
Something you have no reference point for.
Brand new lessons to learn.
Yes.
And we probably won't remember, just like we don't remember being a rock or a plant or an animal or something like that in our previous little fractalized portion of source that floated around. But yes, the whole always knows itself, I guess, to some extent, right?
It does, yeah. I don't know if
through
you guys
us.
Have you guys read The Law of One?
Yeah, I love The Law of One.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
good stuff.
So this is where I get all this information from. Is Ra talks about this, and he actually says that at fourth density, which is the density of love and understanding, which is what we just switched into in 2012, Age of Aquarius. Our planet sort of became a fourth density planet. He says that once you are a fourth density being, then you don't have to go through the veiling process anymore, because the veil, which is the veil of forgetting, exists to become like a catalyst to force you to learn and grow and learn certain lessons. Because apparently the creator has experimented with infinite amounts of worlds where there wasn't a veil. And so like third density beings like you and I would be here, and we totally knew we're one with the source, one with the all, we're good, we're happy. And so there wasn't actually any progression up the density levels, which is what it was trying to do, because everybody was just great. Right. So it said, why don't I make them forget who they are? And all of a sudden they have no reference point anymore, and they're going to start asking questions. And that's what creates that evolutionary process. So after third density, which is apparently the most difficult one, you don't have to forget who you are anymore. So you can remember where you've been, what you've done, and those lessons, you take them with you from that point on.
Very nice. So how long do you see this transitional phase taking? Do you think it's decades, or how do you feel about that, Aaron?
The fourth density shift?
Yeah, just the shift through. It's like, okay, so if we went in the fourth density around 2012, are we looking at thousands of years to go in the fifth density, or is it just...
I definitely think it's going to be thousands of years, because evolution doesn't happen like quickly. But if all we can do is infer from the past, right? Mm-hmm. So if you look at the past, when were we second density beings? When we were, apes and stuff, maybe 1 million years ago, I think, is when the ego started to evolve, and we, the great apes started to become self-aware and everything, develop language and start communicating with words. So, if it took 1 million years for us to go from second density to third, you could say maybe it'll take 1 million years to be in fifth density from fourth. But I don't actually think it works that way. I think that the higher the density levels, or maybe you could say the less difficult the catalyst is in that density level, the faster you might progress up it.
Right. Because I imagine you're probably a mountain for millions of years before, and then you're a plant for more like hundreds of years, maybe, if you're a big tree or something. And then by the time you get to our age, we're under 100 years most of the time that we survive and recycle around again. So I guess once we hit that next level, we'll probably have extended lives too, then, wouldn't we? It'll probably, I don't know, I could see it taking longer and longer as you move up, because you're going to live longer too, right? Probably.
Yeah, I actually don't know if it actually has anything to do with your physical vessel after fourth density, because you become sort of a light body.
Right.
Well, see, that's what I was going to say, though. If you look at the law of attraction like it is, if you want to believe that you're stuck in a matrix, that's being controlled by these aliens and all this stuff, like that, well, then that's what you're going to experience.
Yeah.
Or if it's just like religious people, when they die, they go to consensus reality, which is just like heaven, not realizing that they can go beyond that, not saying that it's not there, And so I just think that it's really important what you do believe. And, I just like kind of believing that we're all consciousness. So I think everybody is kind of an orb. Even if you're an alien, you're like an orb, and that's what you are. And you can just go do whatever it is that you want to.
Yeah, I kind of see it like Aaron was saying earlier, like it's everywhere, but you're sort of these little focal points of consciousness, or, like my consciousness is at this specific point, but my little individualized, fractalized portion of source is right here,
Yes. Yeah, because consciousness is formless, right? It is without objective quality. So when it's not, it needs some kind of medium to become made manifest in a finite form. And so it's actually just an illusion. It's not actually finite. It's just sort of looking through a pair of sunglasses and having the experience of what it would be like if I was finite. So that's why it veils itself, right? Because if you remembered you're infinite, you wouldn't really have this human experience anymore. So like, as long as we are in these density levels, we have to have some kind of physical vessel for consciousness to project itself through. Otherwise, it's everywhere all at once. It's the superposition. So we always will have some sort of a body, but as far as I know from Law of One, it makes a lot of sense as well that it becomes more of like a light body that you can change its shape or form as you wish. And then at like the sixth and seventh density, it's like you're just almost like an invisible spirit at that point, and you can appear whenever you want. But to like a person like you and I, a fifth, sixth, seventh density entity could be in my room right now, and I would not know it.
Yeah, or on the sun or somewhere like that we just couldn't go.
Right.
That's
So
interesting stuff.
I know I'm having so much fun talking to him. I know it's probably getting to be that time, but with the law of attraction, would you say that, well, I mean, I think I discovered that the biggest trick to that was the emotions. Would you agree with that? Like that's like the biggest thing. It's like the missing piece, the part that nobody was told about or something.
Or
Yeah.
or wrong emotions applied. I see that a lot too. But you got to
Yeah.
kind of. What do you say about that, Aaron?
I'd like to say that a true intention for something is a thought plus an emotion. Meaning, you have to think about whatever it is you want to manifest. So that's kind of where your imagination takes place. That's the masculine energy part of the mind. What is the object I'm wanting, right? What is the experience I'm desiring? You have to see it in a visual way in some sense. But then you need the feminine side, which is like if the thought is the vehicle, then the emotion is the fuel for the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you have the vehicle and the fuel, you can go get what you want. And so the emotion really is the missing piece because, again, people don't really have a very healthy relationship with their emotions, and they don't understand that their emotions are a powerful creative catalyst. So they might, want a better job or whatever, but then they go right back to feeling terrible about their current job and generating that reality. So it literally is about remaining in your chosen frequency, emotionally, vibrationally. So you have to feel that reality, not just imagine it with a visual image, but actually feel what it would be like, the excitement, the joy you would have waking up every day, going to bed every day. You got to live in that world. And that's the cue that the universe takes to know, oh, this is the parallel reality this person would like to shift into. So,
And then you start seeing the synchronicities, and
yep,
then bam.
it happens so quickly if you can do that.
Yeah. So cool. So lastly, I wanted you to talk about, because see, I feel it's very important. I noticed that when I meditate regularly, because I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I get caught up with life or working a lot and don't do it as like I should. That actually enhances like the out of body experience and lucid dreaming and stuff. So I thought you could maybe just give us some meditation tips.
You're saying when you meditate more, it happens more,
Yeah.
or less? Okay. Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
think.
for
Do you
sure.
think, Aaron?
Definitely. Yeah. It's not like you need to meditate to project, because I had never meditated when I had my first projection. Actually, the whole time I was learning how to project that entire year, I didn't really meditate almost at all, maybe a couple of times. But through meditation over the last 3 years, when I've been doing it pretty much every day, I have seen that it is a lot easier because, like we talked about earlier, astral projecting is really just the ability to focus your consciousness in a certain direction really powerfully, to aim your awareness somewhere. And so if you can meditate really well, you can focus your consciousness really well. And it's just so much easier when you have worked up that muscle, so to speak, of being able to like hone in on one thing with this really intense concentration. And you can watch, like in a lucid dream or a projection, like if you're trying to create a table or something. If you're a strong meditator, you can create that table in a second. And if you're like brand new, you've never meditated, you're in the astral, it might take you 30 seconds to make a table. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? So it's literally a
Yes.
skill you acquire.
Yeah. That's
Kind
so
of
interesting.
like working out.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, I want to make sure that everybody goes and subs Aaron's channel, because I mean, and another thing I like the videos are like short enough that, if you're on a break or something and you want to go watch a video, or if you have
Yeah.
like a short attention span,
Or
you
yeah, I
can
get
like,
that all the time. People saying that if your videos weren't an hour long, I'd probably watch them a lot more. So go
Yeah.
on over and watch Aaron's if you need a shorter video. You need a lot of great information packed into a smaller, area, Aaron's probably your better bet to go.
And y'all, please
It's good
watch
stuff, man. Good stuff. I always binge watch. I'll think I'm going to watch one, and I have to watch 2 or 3 of them. You know.
That's so awesome. That's a good
Please
sign.
watch his rapture video. It's the best. I love it. I love it. It's awesome.
I think it's called the End Times Fallacy, right?
I don't remember what it's called but I go to it. I watch it all the time. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's fun.
It seems like Rapture was in the title, but maybe not. I thought it was.
Rapture.
It is in capitals, isn't it?
Rapture.
Hold up. I'll look while y'all talk.
Right.
While y'all
I think it's called the End Times Fallacy, but I could be wrong.
Wait, I'm gonna see.
It's hard to keep up, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and the thumbnail says how the rapture hijacked Christianity.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's
Okay.
what it was. It was in the picture then. Yeah, it was in the thumbnail.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Well, that's awesome, man. We'd love to have you back again sometime. And
Yeah, I would love it.
Like, I do have your link below in the description box. So if you guys aren't subbed, go on over there and sub and check out the videos. Just watch one.
I'll tell you.
Just watch one, and then you'll see. You know.
Aaron, anytime, like, in a couple months or so, if you feel like doing something on a Monday night, just hit me up, save my email, and we'll just work you in on the next spot or whatever. Because you have so many subjects, and we could do a whole hour on any of them, and they're amazing.
And there's no doubt your channel's going to grow like incredibly, man. So when you're up to 1 million subs or something, don't forget about us little guys.
Yeah.
Well, I just try to do the highest quality content I can, because I feel like I choose quality over quantity. Like a lot of people go the quantity route with like video a day, so they can only do the recording myself with my phone talking and then post it, because it's just too much work to really make a quality video every day. So that approach has worked well for me. I think people like watching really high quality stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah, I noticed. And one thing you and Shane could talk about is I saw you have a drone thing. I think he's into that.
Oh, drone, yeah, doing drone footage, 4K drone footage. Man. Oh yeah, I love it, man.
They're addicting.
Definitely. All right, so I guess we could wrap this one up, you guys. Thank you guys so much in the chat for being here, and thank you, Sherry, for getting Aaron on here, and thank you so much for taking the time, Aaron.
Oh, it's my pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me. We'll do it again.
All right. See you guys later. Peace.
Take care.
Bye.
If you'd like to support the work I do, go to paypal.me/UOTF. Thanks.